Welcome back, everybody, to After Hours. We're talking with Dr. Majid Sadeghpour, who is a human rights activist and the political director for the Organization of Iranian American Communities, OIAC, survived the 1979 revolution, the revolution that toppled the Shah of Iran and brought the current regime that we're currently tussling with as Americans. The White House is, America is. So we were talking moments ago about why the source of the regime's power. I'm wondering, there was an execution of approximately 30,000 of your Iranian compatriots. I'm wondering how is it a regime that is responsible for that can maintain power? Because it seems like when news of that and word of mouth alone would spread news of that, people would just choose not to support a regime that would do that. In America, if that happened in America, the current the president who was in power responsible would be probably impeached. He certainly wouldn't win a re-election.
Of course.
I mean, we had here in this country, I remember the Kent State shootings, and that was devastating.
Yes.
Devastating. And so something like that happening would just erode the support of a current regime, it seems like instantaneously. And yet the regime is still in power.
Without a doubt, yes.
With also the leaders having been killed by the Americans and the Israelis. How is it possible that the current regime is still in power after executing thousands of Iranians in the street, after the top leaders of the regime having been executed through a military action from the United States?
I think your analogy would work within the framework of...
they can't have broad support from the people, can they?
No, they don't. But they don't need to because they carry the gun and the wallet. The reality is...
The gun and the wallet.
Of course.
So a lot of it is tied up to money.
A lot of it is tied up money, but that's not the reason why people are not protesting. The people of Iran would continue to protest even if they were poor. The problem is that if they show up on the street, they get shot and arrested, and their family members and everybody disappears through the coercive oppression machinery that is in every corner, every treetop, every pole in Iran has a censor in it. This is a deep, deep, deep state, and many, many black boxes, we call, not official prisons in Iran, that hold political prisoners, and families have no idea where their loved ones are. The thing is that you're comparing Kent State and what happens in this country, because this is, whether one can argue this is a full democracy or not, but this is a representative government. Some may not like the government, but it's a representative government because people chose collectively the form of government they want. In Iran, this regime is self-elected, self-imposed, through the barrel of a gun, an absolute oppression with complicity of our allies. That is what is frustrating. The European dine and wine with these ayatollahs to this day. And not a single word about the executions that are occurring before them outside of their embassies in Iran. And they host Iranian diplomats in their capitals as if they're true diplomats. Every one of them knows they're really IRGC commanders, were elevated to some comfy place in Europe, whitewashing crimes against humanity and acquiring resources to build the weapons that we are trying to destroy and to kill Iranians. So to flip this around, you'll have to look at the Iranian people and who and what has been fighting against the Iranian people. And inevitably, you get to executions in Iran, you get to find the political prisoners who are at the forefront of this struggle, and you get to the Iranian resistance led by Maryam Rajavi and the National Council of Resistance of Iran, who have been fighting this regime not since yesterday, or Shah's son is over here, some prop him up from the beach and prop him up as a supposed alternative. No, Maryam Rajavi has been fighting this regime for 45 years, 46 years. And they're saying that this regime will not change their behavior and will not, the war with this regime is actually plays into their hand because they are a warmongering, militarized entity. To uproot them, you need to have infrastructure inside Iran, you need to have women leadership, and you need to have an argument that the international community has not yet gotten to, which is regime change. So the people of Iran are fighting for regime change, while the rest of the world is trying to change the regime's behavior. That divide must not exist anymore.
How do you get a regime change though in a place
by
like
the
Iran?
people of Iran fighting this regime, the resistance units help and organize a wider movement to overwhelm the IRGC, but that occurs in stages. During these last protests that you referred to in January, for example, some cities were liberated, small cities were liberated, were entirely in the hands of the people for a few days. But the international community, the Europeans, just about did nothing, right? We didn't express our support for the Iranian opposition in a more forceful manner, per se. We didn't perhaps take a few steps that should be taken, i.e., whatever we can do to provide internet access to Iranians when it is necessary. Because that internet access is not to browse social media in Iran. That internet is to hide, to organize, to survive.
And
so,
right now that's been turned off.
They throttle it as they like, right? And so that environment is overwhelmingly oppressive towards the people. An uprising in an environment just is very similar to when my brother was arrested. It is police, it's martial law without a stating one.